If you are a sales professional and you want to increase your income and you want to add those commas, add those zeros, maybe you want to be a 6-figure salesperson. That's great. Maybe you want to be a 7-figure salesperson. That's great. Maybe 9, 10 figures. It doesn't matter. Whatever your goals are, you are going to have to know your numbers. And for me, it all starts with, well, the greatest of all times. It starts with Michael Jordan. You know, I like to say that because Michael Jordan has this thing where he says, when he talks a lot, I've missed over 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost over 300 games in my career, which really isn't that many. I've been asked to take the game-winning shot 26 different times, and I've missed most of them. And still, people call him the greatest of all times. And if you want to be the greatest of all times, or you just want to be great at what you do, you're going to have to know your numbers, and you're going to have to know what it takes to lead to success. When I became a business broker, I went to work at another firm. And the company that I worked with had lots of seasoned and experienced sales professionals. And with the exception of a couple, most of them worked at a very casual tempo. And I wanted to be great. So I asked them, hey, what are you doing? How many people are you talking to each week? How many phone calls are you making every day? How many? And most of them had been in the business in excess of 10 years. And so how many phone calls are you making? Do you know the answer that I repeatedly got is, well, maybe making about 30 phone calls a week. 30 outbound phone calls to set appointments for someone to let you sell their multi-million-dollar business. I'm like, and I wondered in my head, well, why are they doing that? So then I was thinking, so if they're making 30 phone calls in a week, they're making just a little over 1,500 phone calls in the course of a year. And I was playing catch up. I needed to catch them. I needed to be as good as they are. I really wanted to be way better. And so what I knew that I had to do instantly is I knew that I had to do what Myron Golden, one of my sales mentors, calls collapsing the time frames. I needed to collapse the time frames. I needed to work faster. And so how would I do that? If they were making roughly a little more than 1,500 phone calls a year, how could I catch them or surpass them? Well, I needed to make 62.4 phone calls every day to do a year's worth of work in the course of a month. So every month, I would get a year of experience on them. I would gain on them every month by 1 year, as long as I got 62.4 phone calls in every day. Then I got smart. I was like, well, wait a minute. What if I did that times 2 and I made 124.8 phone calls, which is really 125 phone calls every day? Then in 1 month, I could get 2 years of experience on them, and in no time, I will be the most experienced in my office at getting clients to talk to me. And that's exactly what we did. Let me just go ahead and round that up, 125. And so this is what being like Mike is. It's knowing your numbers. How many attempts do I have to make to get really good at this and really reliable at this? You know, a few years back, I managed a sales team in financial services. And the talent level of the sales team was at various levels. But the closing ratio of my sales team was about the same for all of them across the board. That's because the company had good materials, the company had good products. And so what we came up with is an item that needed to be reflected on the daily sales report. We stopped reporting numbers like dollars on the daily sales report, and then we started putting activity on the daily sales report. And so in each box on the daily sales report, hang on one second, on the daily sales report, in each box, we would have a sales box for under each day of the week. And I realized that it would come down to the number of appointments that we set versus the number of appointments that were kept, where the client actually showed up and met us at the appointed time. And so I drew a little slash in the box, and on the top number, our sales team, each person on the sales team would write how many appointments they set for the day or the week or the month. And so I knew that to be successful, you would have to set 12 appointments every week and get 8 of them to stick. If you can do that, you would hit your sales targets, and you would, of course, hit your income goals based on what we sold. And the most successful salespeople in the office did this or more, and that's what their weekly sales report looked like. They set 12, and they got 8 of them to stick. The least successful salespeople in the office, their numbers would very often look like this at the end of the week. They just didn't get around to doing it. And ultimately, they didn't know that this equation applies to everything, because you could also say, how many phone calls do I need to make to set an appointment? And when you know that number for your industry, incidentally, for this industry, you needed to make 15 phone calls to get one solid appointment set. And so once they knew their numbers, they knew exactly how many phone calls they had to make. And then it came down to, do I want to do this or don't I? And the ones who wanted to went on to win awards, get recognition, and have more money than they knew what to do with. And the ones that didn't were eventually released to their destiny. They went to do something else that they could be good at. And that is how knowing your numbers can make you the GOAT, the greatest of all time. You can be exactly like Mike. So here's the most important thing you need to understand about knowing your numbers. It always comes down to one thing. Once you figure out what your numbers are, and you do that by just making enough contacts, asking enough clients to meet you, asking enough people to buy from you, and eventually it will tell a story. You can look back and see what happened by cataloging your activity, and it'll tell you what your numbers are. But here's the best part about it. Once you know what your numbers are, it doesn't come down to skill. It does not come down to ability. It comes down to a willingness. And willingness to do the activity is fueled by one thing: your belief. People don't make enough contacts with their clients because they don't believe it's going to turn out great. And so they just don't do it. That phone looks like it weighs 800 pounds, and so they don't want to pick it up. That answer sounds like it's going to be too loud for their poor little ears to hear, so they just don't ask the question. They don't ask for the appointment. They don't ask for the meeting. They don't ask for the order or ask for the sale. And so ultimately, you never have enough work in place to find out what it is. But if you can work on your belief, your willingness will rise. If you work on your belief and your willingness rises, then your numbers will rise. Your activity will rise. If your activity rises, your results will rise. And actually, your ratios will get better. The more people that you practice with and the more people that you talk to, the better job you're going to do at closing sales. And you really will become the greatest of all time. And how do you fix that belief? By being here, taking in this content, learning how to be a great salesperson, learning how to work your numbers. And these aren't theories. I'm out there. I'm in the trenches every day. If you want to be a six-figure salesperson, then work with somebody who's conquered that. If you want to be a seven-figure salesperson, then learn from somebody who's conquered that. I'm here to tell you, you've come to the right place at the right time. And if you want to bolster that belief with the knowledge that we have to share with you every day, keep tuning in and keep surprising yourself. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you check out this next one. I try to put something in every video that's going to help you move the meter immediately. Something you can go out and implement right away. This next video has exactly the thing you've been looking for.